Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel for another one of my Project Zomboid guides. Now, I've had plenty of requests over my time spent covering Zomboid to do some sort of video on the traits and occupations system. So, with the new influx of players and the amount of questions about this system that I've been getting, I figured it would be a good idea to finally put together some builds for you folks that are perfect for new players. That's not to say that these builds won't help you if you do have some experience, but I'm going to avoid most massively negative traits that would give beginners a hard time. So if you find this video useful or informative, as always, be sure to drop it a like and subscribe to the channel for more Zomboid content. I also stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Mr. Atomic Duck if you want to swing by and ask me some questions about these builds that I put together when I can respond to them in real time. So to kick off the video, I'll get straight into how the trait system works. And for those that already know about this, feel free to skip ahead. I'll leave a chapter in this video so you can jump to the good stuff. Essentially, this screen is where you get to choose the occupation of your character, as well as any positive and negative traits that you wish to take. Depending on your occupation of choice, you'll get some unique benefits and an allowance of points to spend, or most of the time, a point deficit that you'll need to balance out in order to start your playthrough. Now, some good perks to do that are prone to illness, smoker, weak stomach, and short-sighted, and you'll see how we combine these with certain positive traits here in a minute to give you a better chance at survival in the next section. Now, the first of our builds is the Carpenter, and as default, the Carpenter will get you 2 points to spend on traits, 3 levels in Carpentry, and 1 point in short blunt weapons. The real kicker here, though, is that Carpentry receives a 125% multiplier to any XP gains in this field, and short blunt gets a 75% increase in the multiplier. So short blunt weapons tend to be some of the most common in Project Zomboid, and are often the first ones that you'll come across too, which makes this perk great for beginners. Frying pans, rolling pins, nightsticks from reanimated police officers, or just hammers, they all come under this category, and you'll get more proficient with them more quickly with the perks that this class boasts. If you're wondering about the Carpentry skill, we'll get to why this is so beneficial in just a moment. But first, let's look at the negative traits we're going to choose for this class. This will be prone to illness, smoker, weak stomach, and pacifist. Prone to illness only really comes into effect if you either neglect a wound long enough for it to become infected, or during extreme weathers without proper protective clothing. So as long as you're attentive, you won't really see any impact from this. But if you do leave wounds long enough, for example, you increase your risk at catching an infection. Smoker requires you to find a lighter or matches and some cigarettes. Otherwise, your anxiety will climb gradually due to withdrawal symptoms. You can usually find the items required to nullify this pretty early on. Check zombies, glove boxes in cars, convenience stores, or just gas stations. These locations all tend to spawn either cigarettes or lighters, and from there, it's really easy to manage. Weak stomach is only going to matter if you eat undercooked or burnt food, which is pretty easy to not do. And lastly, pacifist will reduce your weapon XP gain by 25%. And a lot of players take this one anyway for the extra points, but keep in mind that we're already gaining a 75% increase in short blunt weapons due to choosing Carpenter, and we're about to make this even better. So for positive traits, we're taking Fast Reader, Fast Learner, and Handy. I want to start with Fast Learner. This gives us 130% XP gain for any and all skills outside of strength and fitness. Stack this up with the previous gains we have, and that makes for a massive XP bonus in both Carpentry and short blunt weapons. Not only that, but we're completely nullifying the minus 25% from Pacifist with this 30% increase. So we actually get a 5% increase on all other weapon types. Quick maths. Fast Reader is a bit more of an optional trait in this one, and if you're in a single player especially, I'd recommend switching this out to something like Dexterous, as you're going to spend quite a bit of time with this class packing and unpacking carpentry supplies like planks, which can take quite a lot of time. If you're on single player, you'll be using the time skip feature to skip reading periods anyway, so Fast Reader is kind of negligible. Now lastly, we look at Handy, and this is the pièce de résistance of this build. With Handy, we gain 1 final level in Carpentry, granting us a total of 4 levels. This allows us to build composters for gathering fertilizer, and more importantly, we can build rain collectors from day one. We skip the need for both beginner and intermediate training books when it comes to carpentry and move right on to the advanced books. Your building speed will be increased by 11%, your structures will all have 100 plus HP, making you the perfect base builder for any survivor stronghold. You can get building on day one and make some serious fortifications. Oh, and just a tip, if you didn't know, the strongest barricade comes from making level 1 walls and upgrading them, not jumping straight to level 3, for example. They get more HP this way if you upgrade them progressively. Lastly, we get a point in the maintenance skill, which means that we can repair weapons more effectively and their condition will last for longer. This can actually make spears a great weapon choice for this class as well, as you'll level maintenance much quicker and your spears will last longer. Ordinarily, this can be a bit of a tedious thing to level up and spears will break very quickly. So grab that butter knife, slap it to a stick, and then stick it to the man with this quick learning post-apocalyptic handyman. Next up in our list of occupation and trait builds comes one of my personal favorites, which is great for getting mobile as soon as possible and relocating to that ideal base location you want to get to from anywhere on the map. For this one, we're picking the occupation burglar. This is going to give you the ability to hotwire cars, which ordinarily requires a bit of time put into both mechanics and the electrical skills. With a screwdriver, this makes any vehicle drivable for you as long as you can find some fuel and of course the vehicle is in good condition. Burglar also reduces your chance to break window locks when attempting to get into buildings, which is a nice little afterthought. Our negative trait selection for this one is going to be high thirst, prone to illness, smoker, weak stomach, and clumsy. Now, I know it seems strange on face value to take clumsy as a burglar, but there is a method to the madness with this one. As burglar, you'll be granted 2 levels in nimble, sneaking, and light-footed, as well as a 100% XP gain bonus to all 3. These extra levels will result in a 20% reduction to the radius of sound you produce when sneaking, and 21% reduction to the radius for general movement. Clumsy increases the radius of sound generation by 20% from all movement-related noises. So in essence, you're cancelling this out with the negative effects of clumsy using the class benefits and still keeping that 100% multiplier to XP gain. Now, for someone that's likely to survive for a very long time, this may impact you later as you won't be able to get as much of a maximum to your sound reduction, but you can replace clumsy with short-sighted if you'd prefer, or even slow reader if you're in single player and can skip time anyway to make reading easier. Lastly, we've got high thirst, which does exactly what it says on the tin, but is easily remedied as soon as you find a water bottle, so long as you can keep it topped up. Now we move on to the positive traits for this build. Cat's Eyes, Wakeful, Inconspicuous, and Amateur Mechanic. The combination of Cat's Eyes and Wakeful is a great one for single player, as you'll need to sleep less whilst also being able to see better in the dark, which allows you to maximize the time you have for activities during those crucial starting days when you're looking to find a vehicle to hotwire and gas to fuel it. Cat's Eyes is still useful in multiplayer as you won't be sleeping in most cases, and this will generally just make your life much easier, but Wakeful will have no use in multiplayer servers like this, so that can be replaced with a different 2-point skill perk like Dexterous if you would like. Inconspicuous gives you a 50% reduction in the chance of you being spotted by a zombie when you're inside its visual radius, which is a great lifeline for newer players and fits the burglar lifestyle we've gone for. Lastly, we've got Amateur Mechanic, which is going to give you the knowledge to replace parts on all standard and heavy duty vehicles, which are most of the common vehicles you'll be using. This includes vans, trucks, or standard cars like you'll find in residential areas. Ordinarily, you'd need to find a magazine necessary to learn the repairs for these vehicles, but we're skipping that process whilst also benefiting from an extra level in mechanics and a 75% XP bonus, making what is sometimes quite a tedious skill easier to level. Look for a vehicle, steal it, and know how to fix it instantly. You probably worked in a chop shop before the apocalypse, but nobody really cares about that now, right? Now, a lot of people will tell you that firearms in Project Zomboid are a death sentence and never to use them. I disagree with this statement, especially now that multiplayer is here. In the right situation, with enough ammo, firearms can be an asset to any survivor, and in groups they can be absolutely devastating. For that reason, I wanted to put together together a beginner-friendly build that supports firearms. As our occupation, we're choosing police officer. This is going to give us 3 levels in aiming, 2 levels in reloading, and 1 level in nimble. We gain 125%, 100%, and 75% bonuses to XP for these skills respectively. Aiming and reloading can be a bit of a pain to level, especially in the early game when you're limited to a very narrow selection of weapons that you can use efficiently. So just a couple of tips on firearms that might help you with this build. The M36 is an incredibly small sound radius pistol at just 30 tiles, and the M9 pistol is just 40 tiles. Both of these are very viable at lower aiming levels and have the smallest sound radius of all the firearms in the vanilla game. Shotguns are the quickest way to level your aiming and reloading skills, as they can wipe out groups of zombies in a single shell and can be used at lower levels. That said, they are also incredibly loud and draw zombies from 100 tiles, so keep that in mind when you're choosing whether to open up on some Zeds, because it's likely that you'll need a lot more ammo than you think you will. For negative traits in this build, we'll be taking slow healer, underweight, prone to illness, smoker, and weak stomach. Now, we've covered most of these already in the video, so I'll just touch on slow healer and underweight. With slow healer, your wounds will obviously leave you injured for longer, and it will take longer to recover from them. In single player or PvE servers in multiplayer, this is almost never an issue, as most wounds are likely to be either scratches and lacerations, which don't overly affect you anyway unless you get unlucky with the infection chance, and of course bites that will leave you dead anyway. In PvP servers, it's worth considering how this will affect you after a firefight, however, as these types of wounds can take significant amounts of time to heal. If you tend to play PvP, I'd recommend not taking slow healer and maybe skipping out on keen hearing as a trade-off, which I'll cover in a moment as part of our positive traits. Underweight really isn't that big of an issue. You'll drop 1 level in fitness, have 80% of the usual melee damage, a 10% increased chance to trip, and a 15% chance to climb a high fence unsuccessfully. With underweight, however, we can put on weight at a maximum of 3 kilograms per day, whereas you can only lose a maximum of 1 kilogram per day, and this is why we're not taking overweight, we're taking underweight. You start at 70 kilograms and underweight drops off at 75 kilograms, so providing you can find some high calorie foods to stuff yourself with, we can have you back into that average weight range in no time. Who knew it was so much easier to put on weight than it was to lose it? Anyways, insecurities aside, let's talk about the positive traits for this build. Our officer is going to be taking Cat's Eyes, Brave, Fast Learner, and Keen Hearing. We've been over Cat's Eyes already, so we won't cover that too much, but it's just going to make your ability to use firearms at night much better. Brave is an important one and will lower how prone your character is to panic. Panic makes your character less accurate, which we definitely don't want with firearms. Fast Learner is just going to increase our XP bonus for firearm related skills even further, providing you can survive for a little while. You'll be an expert marksman in no time. Lastly, we've got Keen Hearing, which is an incredibly helpful trait to run for any new starter, especially someone that wants to benefit from firearms. In short, this increases the perception radius around your character, which reveals zombies closing in on you sooner. When you're shooting at zombies, it can be difficult to watch your six, and in this trait, it will be a lifesaver with those intense moments, giving you the time to move if a Zed is creeping up on you. The last build we're going to look at today is one of my favorites, and it's what I like to call the Unemployed Chad. You'll see where he gets this name by the time I'm done. As the name suggests, we're not taking an occupation for this one, as we want to maximize our point allowance. For negative traits, we're picking up High Thirst, Pacifist, Prone to Illness, Weak Stomach, Short-Sighted, and Slow Reader. Now, the only one we haven't really covered here is Short-Sighted, which narrows your view distance when it comes to spotting things, but it really isn't that big of a hit for most players, and a lot of people tend to use it anyway. That said, it is an optional one, much like Slow Reader is, depending on your preferences. So for positive traits, we're picking up Wakeful, which can be a trait that you drop if you don't want to pick up Short-Sighted, Keen Hearing, Athletic, and Strong. We've covered Wakeful and Keen Hearing, so let's take a look at Athletic and Strong. These two perks combined will give you a staggering 9 total levels in both fitness and strength. So whilst you don't have any extra bonuses from your occupation, you're going to be an absolute machine that can run, sprint, and climb for longer before coming fatigued. It's one of the best trait builds for learning the game, as one of the biggest struggles for new players is becoming tired from running away or fighting zombies. Rule 1, folks, is cardio. Just to emphasize how important this can be. The average starter class gets 5 points in fitness and strength, so you're getting an absolute bonus of 4 levels to both of those. So that's it from me in this one, folks, but I hope you found a build or two you can try, and if you're a new player especially, I hope this helps you survive in zombified Kentucky for that extra few days. If you've got any builds that you'd like to share, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. I would love to hear what you guys have been theory crafting, and it could be a huge help to all the newcomers out there looking for guidance. Lastly, a very special thank you to all of my patrons for supporting my channel, contributing to some of these builds, and for joining me on the whitelisted Patreon server. The link is in the description for that if you want to join them. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.